Welcome to the Sarra Show. On today's episode, I am in conversation with Judy Thureson. Judy is a beautiful human, deeply connected to herself. She is vulnerable, authentic, and powerful. She's also a mom, wife, daughter, sister, author, and coach. I met Judy back in 2021 when we were both selected by Steve Hardison to go on a car ride with him from Phoenix to LA. That ride ended up being 10 hours, and since then, our lives have totally changed. Judy went on to create the ultimate experience, which became a worldwide event that has impacted the lives of thousands, if not millions of people. The conversation you're about to watch took place one day after the ultimate experience in Scottsdale back in January of 2024. Hello everyone and welcome to the Sarra Show. Today we have a very special guest all the way out of Phoenix. A special guest who is very dear to my heart, who I've shared with something magical back in 2021. Yes, over 2 years ago. She is one of the six pack, and so am I. And the two of us are still standing.
We have a special bond.
We do have a special bond. We shared a magical couple of days with Steve, and our lives completely changed since then. Judy Thureson, who's with me here today and is my special guest, has actually taken the whole experience to a whole new level. We actually just came out of an event from the last 2 days that she created out of a vision she had. I really wanted to have a conversation with Judy because I admire something very specific in her, which is inspiration, action. Inspiration, action. She's one of those really powerful women who hear the nudge, hear the call, and actually take the action. And for me, that's something that takes a lot of courage. So I am very, very, very honored to be here in Phoenix and to be in conversation with you here today, Judy, out of your house. So not only you're here opening your heart with me today, but you're also opening your house, and you're doing it really the day right after the event. So I cannot express how much I appreciate you doing this today, and for bringing me along for the ride and the experience you've been creating since the last 2 years. So I'm really deeply honored to be sitting next to you here today. Thank you.
The feeling is absolutely mutual. I'm so excited to be with you, and like I shared earlier, we have this special bond, and it's just like this turning point in our lives when everything went quantum leap to a next universe, a next orbit, and I just love that we have that to share, because you saw me, we saw each other during that time. Yeah. And so we're able to really reflect and see and just shake our heads in amazement of, wow, can you believe this is our life now?
Yeah.
And it is so exciting, and it's so fun, and it's this journey that we get to be on together. And I'm so honored to be here, and I'm so glad that we could make this happen. And I know yesterday when you asked me, I said, let me check in in the morning, see how. I had no idea how I was going to feel the next day after that. Two very impactful, energetic, it's indescribable what happened in the last couple days. And so I wanted to really check in and make sure that I had enough energy and bandwidth to do it.
Do you know how much I love that you said that to me. A lot of people don't do that. You know, the let me check in. Let me be true to myself. You know, let me do this from my heart, not just say yes to you because I want to say yes, and not to say no just because I don't feel like it right now. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I want to check in and honor myself and get back to you. I have tremendous respect for that.
Thank you for noticing. And it's definitely a work in progress. And I feel like even in this recent creation of the ultimate experience, I was forced to really check in and do everything from that place of authenticity, of checking in with my gut, of really listening. And so it's become this practice. I'm a recovering people pleaser, recovering control freak, you know, so it's a lot to stop and check in and listen to myself and have boundaries and not, you know, like you said, not just say yes to say yes. And so I thank you for that acknowledgement because it's not easy. It's not natural.
Welcome to the Sarra Show. On today's episode, I am in conversation with Judy Thureson. Judy is a beautiful human, deeply connected to herself. She's vulnerable, authentic, and powerful. She's also a mom, wife, daughter, sister, author, and coach. I met Judy back in 2021 when we were both selected by Steve Hardison to go on a car ride with him from Phoenix to LA. That ride ended up being 10 hours, and since then, our lives have totally changed. Judy went on to create the album.
It's something that I'm really intentionally practicing.
Yeah, yeah, that's not something that we thought from an early age. Hey, I'm going to ask you this, and it's okay to say no. But take the time to check in with yourself and then get back to me. That would be a beautiful thing to teach our children.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So just so you guys know, the energy of the room where we were at yesterday was something I've never experienced before to that magnitude. It was about 250 people who showed up to upgrade their being. And this dawned on me this morning, an offer that upgrade in service of a charity. Through that upgrade, we were able to raise tremendous amount of money through Judy and her husband Eric, who really led that part beautifully. So I realized something, that when we're upgrading, we offering that for a cause. Every time, that's why we're doing it.
Yeah.
The purpose is not to just upgrade just for yourself, but to offer it in service. In this case, it was for child trafficking. Would you mind telling us a little more about why you picked that cause?
Yeah. So in this particular, and I do try to live my life in this way, but this particular event, everything was downloaded to me of how many days the event, who's speaking at the event, where it's going to be, what it's going to look like, what the charity was going to be. And so for me, it wasn't even my conscious choice. It was just obeying the prompting and the nudge and the call. And there was no doubt that this was going to be the charity we were going to support. So when we do these events, you know, we choose a charity to support, and this one was for Operation Underground Railroad. Back in the summer, there was a movie called Sound of Freedom, and it depicted, you know, it's based on a true story of this organization that goes in and literally rescues these women and children and kids out of these horrific circumstances. And it was just something really dear, you know, to my heart, because I can't even fathom and imagine that that's really what's happening out there. And as you know, even in the 2-day event, we heard stories of people who are, who could have well, one of them almost was kidnapped, and the other one did survive being, trafficked. And a few people actually share that. And so to see the healing on the other side, and to see that these people can have hope, and to see that we can contribute and be a part of that for another human being. I mean, it just makes me emotional. And I love what you said, because when you're doing something this big, it has to be for something bigger than ourselves. Otherwise, it's just ego. And, we're just trying to prove something, where I really feel like the whole room was there for something greater than ourselves. And I agree. I can't even describe what happened. Yeah. And I'm still trying to process, it just yesterday. So it's hard to, I feel like when I woke up, was I dreaming? What just happened? So I feel a little hungover today, but it's a good kind of hangover.
Right? I felt the same way today, and then it's not until you said I felt hangover, then I was like, oh, that's what that is. You mentioned downloads. Mm-hmm. People, when they think about download, they think you're sitting in a room or on top of a mountain. I don't know about you, but my experience is more ordinary than that in terms of downloads. Sometimes they happen when I'm in the shower. Sometimes they happen when I'm driving. Sometimes it's almost like setting an intention for something or committing to something and then letting it be. And then the answers start showing up as I'm doing something else.
Yes.
So I'm curious as to what your experience of a download is.
Well, this one in particular, I was sitting in meditation.
Okay.
But I agree. There's definitely times where it's just a knowing, or, a voice, or, it's hard to articulate in words, but if you've experienced it, where you're just called to do something. And when I first was creating the second anniversary ultimate experience, I wasn't inspired yet. And so it just became another thing on my to-do list, right? On all the other plates that I'm spinning, it just became another plate to spin. And it wasn't flowing. It wasn't inspired. It wasn't something that was pulling me, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And actually it felt just like another thing. And it was pressure. Obligation kind of a feeling. And so I was getting ready to just say, nope, I'm not going to do it, because I don't work from that place. I like to work from a place of flow and openness and just freedom. And it wasn't feeling like that. It felt very restrictive. It felt very much, as a possibility in my ego of, oh my gosh, I did the first one. This one better be better. And I was putting all this pressure on myself. So that's when I checked in with myself, and I went into meditation and went to the beach, got into nature and really connected with spirit and asked, am I supposed to do this? And if so, how? And it was almost instant, Sarah. The download came, showed me a 2-day event, showed me every single person who was going to speak at the event. It showed me the entrance of the venue. It showed me the tables. It showed me the decorate. It showed me every detail.
Wow.
As a glimpse. And then as soon as I came out of that meditation, I love your acknowledgement of me that, the inspired thought, instant action, because immediately after that meditation, I got in my car. My girls were still at the beach. I said, I have to make some phone calls. I got in the car, and the first person I called was Chris Smith, because he was in that download. I never talked to Chris before, had no idea who he was, but we got in a conversation, and every single person, like 25 people that I talked to, every single person said yes. And here was another epiphany to me. I have this reputation now that nobody says no to Judy, right? Even Steve Hardison. And what I realize is that when I'm coming from a place of spirit, what people are not saying no to is not Judy. They're not saying no to spirit, because spirit and spirit, I got the chills right now, because that's really why people say yes, because they know that where this is coming from is from a place of spirit. And every single person, I'm sitting there in awe of all these amazing speakers that came from all over the world on their own dime. And I'm like, wow, I'm so humbled and so honored that they would say yes. But yes, they said yes to me, but more importantly, they were saying yes to spirit and to the call and to the vision. And all of us co-created the last 2-day experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It totally makes sense. And once again, you demonstrate the connection, the strong connection that you have to God or spirit, as you call it, whatever, it doesn't matter, it's just a name. And going to the beach and actually looking for an answer.
Yeah.
Taking that step instead of not taking that step. Because sometimes we get scared of what the answer might be.
Right.
Especially if it's conflicting with what our ego wants, or if it's conflicting with our fears. Because sometimes spirits might nudge us to do something and it's really scary. Right?
Oh, trust me, it was scary to see this 2-day event and all the people. And I was like, I don't know, how is this going to work? I don't know how to do this. Many times during the process, I wanted to quit because I felt like I'm not big enough for this mission. I'm not enough, right? That gets in the way for me. That's a limiting belief that I have. But what I loved is that it was just one step at a time. I didn't have to know how it was going to all happen, big picture. I just had to look at what's the next step. And it didn't really dawn on me until Thursday night. We walked into the venue and we had a cleansing ceremony where we blessed the room. We blessed and prayed through every seat, every table in the room. It was a beautiful ceremony that we had on Thursday night before the event. And that's when it hit me, like, this is really happening. We're here now. And I think, God is so smart not to show you the whole picture, because I think we wouldn't do it. But when he just shows you a little bit at a time, little bite-sized pieces, then you're like, okay, well, I can do that. I can do that next little step. I can do that next little step. To the next thing you know, you've climbed this huge mountain.
Right.
So beautiful.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that because, when we set up, let's say goals, if we were to call them goals, and the goal is very big, a lot of people get discouraged because they're looking at the peak of the mountain. But if you're just looking at taking the next step in front of you, then you're like, yeah, I can take the next step today, and tomorrow just put in one foot in front of the other, and eventually I'll reach the peak of the mountain. But if you're too busy looking up, you might get discouraged or too scared to take even that step, that first or second step.
Absolutely. And I think what's really beautiful about my journey is I feel like I am an example of what's possible, right? Because I didn't come from this place of like, oh, look at me and I'm, this successful, powerful human being. It really is those little steps that is doable for anyone. And so this is what's possible for anyone. And I love that I get to be like the poster child of that. I'm like, hey, if I can do it, anybody can do it, kind of a attitude,
Yeah. I wonder if anybody actually comes from the place of confidence or certainty that, oh yeah, I can totally get there. Most people I know, including myself, there's a lot of doubt that we deal with. I think it's just a human condition.
Yeah, that's
right?
a great point.
A lot of doubt that we deal with constantly. I mean, presidents deal with a lot of doubts, CEOs, and everybody who's doing something big. I feel like the doubt is always there. It's just, do you listen to it or not?
Right.
Do you keep going or not?
I mean, I think it's what's valuable about podcasts like these, or, different conversations like this, is that we get to show what's happening behind the curtain.
Right.
And so it really humanizes the experience, because the CEOs or, the powerful, successful people, we see the end result, but we don't really see what goes on behind the scenes. And so I think this is really a valuable conversation to show, yeah, we all have doubts. We all get scared. We all have fear.
Yeah.
But we do it anyway.
Right. It's that fact of doing it anyway. And even like that, the feeling of wanting to give up, like you even said, it gets hard at times and you just want to give up, and you forget why you're doing it in the first place. Because it's nice when you hear spirit and gives you that nudge. And in my experience, my heart expands and I'm like so happy. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do what God's telling me to do. And I do. Then with time, it's like things start to get hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes, at least for me, I kind of like disconnect from that or forget. I'm like, well, it's easier to stay in bed, or it's easier to play small, or it's easier not to take this on. Or one of the things that really shows up for me is, why me? Why is it me that I have to go do this thing? That's a question I would always ask God, like, why me? And then one day I was in Asia and I heard God said, why not you?
Right.
And then that changed everything for me.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I think for me, what, we look at, it's a great event, and, you got the nudge, and look at this beautiful unfolding. But what people don't see is that I've also said yes to the challenges, and I've said yes to the things that were going to expand me in my character and my growth, my leadership. And, if you see the roster of all the people that were speaking, I kind of felt like at times I was Phil Jackson with the Lakers, having to manage and, massage some egos in the room, right? Mm-hmm. Not that there were people there with egos, but, I had to have some tough conversations with people that I did not want to have. Because like I said, I'm recovering people pleaser, control freak, I had conflict avoider, and those conversation spirits said, you need to have this conversation before this event. Because for me, what's important is I walk into that room with a clear and open and pure heart, so that I can be this pure vessel in which whatever the call is, love, it's service for me, is that's where I'm coming from. And it's important for me to be authentic to that. And so if I have anything in my heart that's a judgment or a unresolved conflict with someone, I had to get those resolved before Friday. So the week leading up to this event, I was having some very, very hard conversations. And I'm grateful for it, because it literally expanded me. And I don't think the event would have been the same had I not had those conversations, because I showed up differently. I showed up in ownership. I showed up in leadership. I showed up in authenticity, because I was true to myself. And when the nudge came, hey, you need to have these conversations before this event, I did it. And it was scary, but I did it. And I came on the other side stronger and having more intimacy with these conversations, right? Like the person that I was having conflict with, after the conversation, we came to a deeper degree of respect and honor of one another. And it really transcended those relationships. So even though that was scary, I'm grateful, because it really grew me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you can relate, if you've ever had to have tough conversations like that.
Definitely. I think having tough conversations are one of the hardest things for us as humans, especially if we weren't taught to do that as children. or we tried to do that and we were shut down or invalidated, or asked to, or made not significant whatever we're trying to express. So I can totally relate to that. And it took me a long time to learn to have those conversations, because my mechanism was, okay, I'm done. I'm leaving. And my process was process of elimination. Okay, so I'm not gonna say anything about this, I'm not gonna say anything about that, and then that and that. And then maybe they'll see it, maybe they don't, but I'm not gonna have those conversations. But then once it gets too big, I just leave, you know? So it was obviously it doesn't work, right? Because you live your life through a process of elimination. But I do see how everybody struggles with having tough conversations. It's a big issue at corporations. It's a big issue in family, in relationships, in love, in friendships. What I've learned for me was, where am I coming from? Am I coming from a place to accuse the person and tell them, you did this to me or you made me feel this way? Or am I coming from a place of trying to understand and resolve something and create a better relationship? And that was a game changer for me when I was able to see it. That's what gave me the courage to actually start having those conversations. And the other thing that was interesting for me was the spiritual ego, in terms of, well, yes, that hurt me, but let me go work on myself. It shouldn't be hurting me.
That's good.
You know, I should be able to figure it out. Nobody has the power to hurt me. So I need to go look within myself.
Yeah.
Why is this an issue?
Yeah.
So kind of like maybe eliminating the human side, or maybe just a sneaky way of avoiding to have a conversation.
Yeah. I think in some circles they call maybe bypassing, right?
Yeah.
Spiritual bypassing, gaslighting yourself, ghosting yourself, right? And trust me, I was very tempted to do that, you know. And there's one particular, I was talking myself out of it, saying, oh, well, that's just who I'm being. I'm being sensitive. I'm sure they didn't mean it. Right? So justification. And then I sat with it for 2 days and I said, okay, let me check in. How do I really feel? And it's like, no, my feelings are hurt. I feel disrespected. I feel dishonored. And I need to confront this and have this conversation. And for me, what really helped me was I was not attached to the outcome. And I looked at the two ways. This person can either double down and say, well, no, that's what I said and that's what I meant. And if you don't like it, too bad. I mean, that's one possibility it could go. Or, wow, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. And, you know, that was not my intention. And I really apologize. That was another possibility. But I wasn't attached to which possibility I wanted. I was only concerned with, I need to be clear. And so whatever happens, it's going to happen. I just need to clear my heart. And I think that coming from that place for me is really powerful, because I only have control over how I'm going to respond. No control over how they're going to respond. And good to, you know, report that everybody responded in a very loving, humble, open, vulnerable. And it was really good to see that my stories that I created was totally not what was happening. And so having those conversations was important, because it helped me to see, like, wow, I really created some stories around that conversation. And that's not how it was. Yeah.
I love that what's coming up for me as you're talking is doing it from a place of self-love, right? Not shaming, right? Not shaming yourself, like, I shouldn't be feeling this way, or I shouldn't be having these stories, or I mean, we all have those thoughts, but then we might get stuck there. But out of self-love is born, I need to clear myself. That's self-love.
Yeah, thank you for putting words, articulating what that is, because that really is what it felt like.
Yeah.
Like standing up for myself.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to talk about a transformation that I've experienced during the event. My voice is raspy, but today is even raspier because I haven't stopped talking since since the last
We
2
love your
days.
sexy voice.
And I've been doing a lot of traveling, so it usually doesn't help my voice. With that said, there's something that I've heard a lot since the event from 2 years ago in 2022, the first ultimate experience. And I just want to take a moment to mention that what we're talking about here, Judy's creation, is called the Ultimate Experience. It's held here in Phoenix, Arizona. The first one started 2 years ago in 2022, January 26th. It's a vision she had. It's born out of love, out of Jacob's desire for us to come together, and out of the six pack, and out of a book that Amy Hardison wrote called The Ultimate Coach Book. So I just want to take the time to honor that so you guys can understand what we're talking about. So 2 years ago, during the first Ultimate Experience, which, by the way, there's one that after that happened in London, and another one happened in India, right? And then another one here again, and there's another one happening in Birmingham in the end of May of this year. The first year, Steve was talking a lot about seeing the gold in people, and that hit me really hard. This year, it was even a deeper level of what does it mean to see the gold in people? So the first year I was like, okay, well, yeah, focus more on the good parts of people. So, and it made sense, right? But then I would still get stuck in like, well, what if they're being this way? Or what if they're annoying me? And, and then I use it a little bit in that spiritual bypassing of like, well, don't worry about how you feel. You're supposed to see the gold in people, not worry about having these conversations or anything like that. But this year, what I really understood was you see that energy of when someone is being a certain way that might be hurtful for me, but not get stuck in it because it's just an energy. It's not the essence of the person. The essence of the person is pure love. And we all act however way we act at times, but not confusing it with ignoring it, but also not getting stuck in it. I don't know if I'm articulating this well, and it's okay because it's something that just really hit me yesterday. But J.P. Morgan was also talking about the candle. And for me, that was a different way of seeing the gold. Like, focus on the light. Focus on the light, focus on the candle, focus on the gold. I wanted to ask you, what does that mean for you?
Wow. Well, it's interesting that, like I spent so much time getting clear and being ready and being this pure vessel come Friday morning for this event. And Friday morning before we left the house to go to the event, Eric and I get in a big fight. Of course we do. And I'm irritated and I'm frustrated and he's trying to calm me down, but I'm still not budging and I'm still irritated and frustrated and, kind of bossing him around because I'm just, there's a lot of energy, anticipation going to this event and I want everything to be right. And I'm refusing to let go of certain things. And he was trying to be this calm voice of reason for me. And then it got to the point where now he had an attitude. He's like, and so then I got clear and I got calm, but now he was mad. And so we were kind of going back. So the whole ride to the event, we're having this back and forth. I'm like, seriously? On the way there? And so for me, looking at the light or the candle or seeing the gold, I think in the middle of those frustrating moments, it's really difficult for me because I'm so caught up in the emotion of it. And so even though I might know intellectually, hey, see the gold, he's trying his best, he's trying to support you and serve you in this way, I was having none of that because I wanted to be right. And I wanted to hang on to my ideas at the time of what I thought was important. And so I don't really have any wisdom to share of how to, I think just awareness.
Yeah, but I think that's already wisdom. It's what you shared. I see the gold in what you just shared. What you just shared was, I created this big, huge event, and it was tough. I wanted to give up at times. I was nudged by spirits, and I was also very courageous, taking the actions one step at a time, and I made it happen, and all these people are here, and it's for an amazing charitable cause, and all these beautiful things are happening, and the morning of, I get into this fight with my husband. That's as raw and as human as it could be. And it's beautiful, right? Because that's what we relate to. That's who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure someone's going to listen to this and be like, okay,
Yeah.
Look at this amazing, powerful woman creating something incredible. And she's human.
Yeah.
And in the vulnerability of sharing of, this is what I go through, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? That's self-love. There's no shame in it.
Right.
Shame isolates you, right? Like with shame, we don't share.
Yes.
Maybe that's why I'm doing this podcast, right? So we can share all these things like, hey, you guys see us from the outside and you think we have it all figured out. We don't.
Yeah.
We're just every day trying our best.
Yeah.
And in sharing and being okay with that, that's self-love.
I love that. I love how you bring it back down to self-love. And I think vulnerability is one of my superpowers because it gives others permission to be human. Mm-hmm. And I don't ever shy away from. I'm probably too open to a fault. I share too much. But I think it's important because it gives others permission to not have to be perfect, because nobody is, but there's a perception that, you get to a certain level, you have to be perfect. And so I'm very open about my flaws and the things that happen. And if you know me, if you're around me, you're going to get live and uncensored. I can't do fake very well.
Yeah.
So if there's something bugging me or if there's an issue, I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. And I love that about you.
And I love that about you because, you and I have had conversations, and I love that you're a straight talker and you say it like how it is. And it just makes me trust you even more because I know you're not going to sugarcoat things and you're not going to be a people pleaser and you're going to call it like it is. And I love that. I feel like that's also a form of self-love.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for saying that. I wouldn't know how to do it differently.
Yeah.
So thank you for your acknowledgement.
You're welcome.
I want to ask you next about some maybe transformation that you've experienced through this event, or some aha moment or belief that you've dropped about yourself.
Yes, actually a really big one this morning as I was reflecting and digesting and marinating, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more days of that. But this morning, one of my weaknesses is it's really hard for me to take acknowledgement. And even throughout the whole event, so many people were coming up to me and thanking me and wow, what a powerful creation. And my answer would be, yes, but it's a co-creation. It's all of us. Not owning and taking ownership of what I did. And I had a few people, you're in a room full of coaches, you're going to get coached, right? Kush says, hey, you're slapping the chocolates out of my hands. Let me just acknowledge you, and Steve Bacon says, can you imagine Tyler Perry or a famous director directing a film and he's being acknowledged, and they say, oh yeah, and he says, oh, it's all the actors, it's all the, the production crew that did it. It's like, no, he was the director, he's the producer, he created it, he's the creator. He would own that. And so it was still, even up until last night, it was really difficult to settle into that. I was still very uncomfortable. And so this morning I was writing an acknowledgement piece to people on the team, all the speakers, all the production, and just my commitment for where I'm coming from, showing up, as the leader, open, transparent, coming from a place of love and service and leadership and ownership and authenticity and yada, 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 right? And then I realized the reason everyone showed up that way was because I showed up that way. And even saying that out loud, there's still a part of me that's judging myself and shaming myself, like, oh, well, that's so arrogant to say. But it's really true. When I look at my reflection of everyone in the room, it's because I was showing up that way. I mean, we're all just mirrors of each other. Mm-hmm. And so it was a really powerful realization for me to see that, yes, the room showed up that way because I showed up that way. Mm-hmm. And to not apologize or shrink myself or make myself small and really own that.
What's next for Judy?
What's next for Judy? It's a really great question. And, as for me, I'm always waiting for the next download, to the next plan, to the next direction where I'm supposed to go. And, I'm in a place in my life where I've expanded so much that I don't have the luxury or time to just do things that are not in alignment with what I feel like my future is taking. And so that means, again, having the uncomfortable conversations of saying no to things, because I want to say yes to everything. But really get clear on, okay, well, what direction are you going? Be clear on that. And then anything that isn't aligned to that, you have to be willing to let it go. So I don't have any clear answers on that right now, other than we are already planning the next Ultimate Experience 2025. It'll be here in Arizona, and we already have a location. It's going to be at a hotel, so it'll be a great hub for everyone, and everyone's so excited already because once you've experienced it, you can't really explain it to people. Yeah. When they ask you, well, what is it, and why should I go? The answer is, I can't explain it. You just have to come to experience it for yourself. Yeah. There are no words to explain what happened in that room the last 2 days.
What would you tell women, a much younger version of yourself?
Well, it makes me a little emotional because I think about all the wasted years that I didn't believe in myself, or that I didn't think I was good enough, or that I wasn't capable, or I was just in fear. And I think about, and nothing is ever wasted because we're exactly where we're supposed to be at this moment. But if I could go back and tell my younger self, you have everything it takes. You have everything it takes right now to do whatever you want to do. I would have cut, 20 years, maybe even 30 years of that learning curve of all of those years of the angst of, oh, am I good enough? Can I do this? All those questionings. And I see so many brilliant young women now who are so assertive and so self-expressed. And, maybe it's because of, now they have all this knowledge at their fingertips that they can research for themselves, where they're not just taking what's given to them and the answer, but they can empower themselves to go back and see, well, do I really believe this? And is this really true? And let me check it out for myself. And then coming to their own conclusion. Like I just love that about the younger generation of women coming up, and there's so much confidence and security because they have more access than I did at that age. I think at my age, won't be pre-internet. That's how old I am. You're only given the information that you have through the lens of whoever those people are, whether it's the government, schools, parents, whatever, very limited. And so that's all I had to work with.
Yeah.
Where now the younger generation that's coming up, they have so much more, and that they can really discern what is in alignment for them and really live true to that. So I think if I were to ask or tell my younger self, is trust yourself. Listen to your gut, your intuition, your inner wisdom, your higher self. It's leading you. It's giving you the steps. You have everything it takes. Right. And I feel like I'm living that now, a little bit of a late bloomer, but it's so fun to live this way.
I remember
There's no pressure.
there's no pressure, and it reminds me of what Amy was saying yesterday about aging. Amy said aging is fun, and it just keeps getting better and better. And I just turned 40 in August.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. And I could totally relate to, like, as my 40s start, I don't feel the same pressure of 30s. It's almost like a rush into trying to achieve something or do, especially maybe as women, as we have a biological clock. But as I turn 40, I feel better and happier than I've ever felt, and healthier.
Yeah.
Like, I realize a lot of things, and Amy was saying this yesterday too. You've gone through stuff, so now you know how to do them.
Yeah.
So it's cool to age.
It is. And as a possibility, it's also because I'm 54. I just turned 54 last week, and you just have no more fucks to give. You're done. You're just like, I got nothing to prove. You don't have to like me. We're just having fun now.
Right.
So if I can tell my younger self, man, do that in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, because, you don't have to wait until you're in your 50s to do that.
How can people find you?
Social media, Judy Thureson, both Instagram or Facebook, and judythureson.com. I'm rebranding and redoing my website right now, but there's contact information on there. Shameless plug, I do have a book on Amazon, Beautiful Tragedy. It's my love letter to Jacob. It's about my grief journey of losing Jacob in 2019. And it's a really great way to get to know who he is and what he means to me and what he is doing in the world right now as we co-create miracles together in this world. So locally in Scottsdale, I own a Pilates studio here, and I love it. It's one of my passions. I got into that in Texas, 2013, and it was part of my healing journey, because at that point, Jacob started really struggling with his mental health and substance abuse, and we were in and out of rehab, and there was a lot of turmoil in our home. So me going to this Pilates class for 45 minutes, it was so intense and so hard, but it was so empowering because it made me feel like if I can do this for 45 minutes, I can do anything. And so I've opened up the same type of Pilates studio so I can provide the safe place for men and women to come and feel like, hey, if I can do this I can do anything in my life. And so that's my passion and something that I love. I host a lot of retreats. And this year, it's a very new partnership with Steve Bacon. You got to experience Steve Bacon at the event, and whew, intensity. And him and I have got to be really close friends. His wife is getting ready to have a baby at any time, and Eric and I are the godparents. So we're, they've become family to us. So him and I will be hosting transformational retreats all over the world. We've got one in Turks and Caicos coming up, and we'll be having one in Sedona. So that's something that we're doing. And yeah, coaching clients one-on-one and helping people just live the life of their dreams. I bring my magic wand to our appointments and our coaching sessions, and it's really helping people achieve whatever they dream of.
Amazing. I'd like to add, Judy.
I just love you. Oh, and I'm just so grateful that I said yes, and that spirit said yes, do it. I feel energized. I feel lit up, and you are just such a beautiful soul. And I love that we're on this journey together, and that we can just watch each other grow and cheer each other on and just be there for each other. So
I love you. Thank you, Judy. I love you too. And I'm looking forward to the next few years and watching each other grow and doing this journey together. So thank you for being there, right there next to me.